from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Give me a follow there, and of course, our phone number if you want to join us. Here it is, 833-482-5337, 8334-Valdez. As always, it's a joy, it's an honor, a pleasure to be here with you guys. We're live and national, so I'm looking forward to speaking with you, and I'm hoping that you'll call in sooner rather than later. I hate it when I have to end the show and there's people on hold that want to share their opinions. Just call in earlier, please. I do want to hear from you, and I want to get you on. Then people criticize me saying, oh, you don't give the callers enough time. No, I give plenty of time. You just got to call in earlier. Anyway, I want to get into a couple of things that are going on today. There's a lot of news out there. Well, a lot and not a lot, right? I mean, a lot of follow-up to the stuff that's been out there, as well as some new things. There's a couple of things that are out there. But one of the things that I want to get into before I get into anything else is this very funny story that was taking the this dating scene by storm on social media. And this is funny stuff, right? Well, I'll give it to you, right? It's in the New York Post. It's all over. But I found it to be funny because I've been in situations similar to this, but not quite this funny and this outright blatant. But check this out. There's a guy and a girl that are, texting back and forth because they're going on a date in New York City. And this is an interesting thing. This guy, he confirms, he posted this online because he asked the girl, he texted her, and he says, hey, just confirming that we're still good for tonight. See you at 8:30 at Little Rebel? ? She puts back, hey, yes, that still works. I just did want to ask one thing to make sure we're on the same page and not waste time! ! Did you vote for Zoran for mayor? I'm really excited he won. He responds with a picture of the website Resy, where you make reservations for dinner and whatnot. And it says your reservation has been canceled. I would have done that too. I thought that was so funny. And this is funny because, it was funny to me. I couldn't stop laughing when I saw this. And is this the biggest breaking news in America? No, but this is the funniest breaking news in America for sure. So instead of, again, responding to any of that stuff, he just sends the screenshot. But it gets better. It gets way better. This guy, by the way, his username is Murray Hill Guy. And he, the restaurant, because everybody was sharing this, the restaurant got in on the social media action saying that a table for two had just opened up if anybody needed it, sharing his image. Now, it gets better. After the woman saw the conversation and saw that it went viral, she sent him another text message. Listen to this. Your page is disgusting. If you do not delete your post, I'm going to the police. I don't need this in my life right now. This week has been insanely stressful. And then he responds with the winner. Didn't you just vote to defund the police? Now you want to call them over for a Twitter post? Shout out and mad props to Murray Hill Guy. This guy's one of my new heroes over here. And he puts good luck. And obviously he took an interview with the New York Post, and he said that was definitely a deal breaker. And I think this is funny. And normally I would do this in the third hour and, maybe take calls on it and have you had a situation like this. But I'm not that type of person, right? I've never dated a blue-haired, crazy lefty. But plenty of girls that I've dated are not conservatives. They're either apolitical or they lean liberal. And politics is not the first thing on their mind. But on occasion, I have been, and I never bring it up. I mean, I'm one Google away from people knowing who I am. So I don't really talk about that stuff. I don't lead with my politics on a date or anywhere else really outside of this program. However, I have been on dates or hanging out with a potential suitor, if you will, and she asks me, one girl asked me, "Do you really like Trump?" And I was like, "Oh, wow." I didn't see that coming. I really didn't. I didn't see that coming. Another one asked me, she didn't ask me, she made a comment. It was a fair one. She said, "Isn't it cool how we get along so well and we never even talk about politics?" Because she's like, "I'm not really into politics, but I probably am more Democratic than I am Republican." And I just smiled. And I was like, "Sure, whatever, I mean, your politics have nothing to do with me." And I guess there's a little bit of of my own understanding. Yeah, I look at somebody and, within a few minutes, you can typically figure people out, right? If you're on a date with a woman and she's, in her 30s, let's say, and lives in this part of the world, New York City, New Jersey, northern New Jersey, she likely makes a decent living, six-figure salary. If she has children, does she do a good job raising her children? Is she looking to turn her boy into a girl, her girl into a boy? You can learn a lot of that very, very quickly without even asking. Once you've established those norms, I'm usually okay. I mean, most people that earn a good living don't favor socialism unless they've really, really sipped the Kool-Aid at one of the universities that really told them you have to do this and hit every emotional chord in their body. Then yes, then they might be. But typically most people, they'll look over both shoulders, look left, look right, and go, "I don't want to pay all that money in taxes. So I don't care, if I'm not going to pay for you to have clean needles. Don't do drugs," right? That's usually what you'll hear from people. And, in my head, and I'm thinking to myself, well, that's why, because these people are actually conservatives, and they just haven't vocalized that yet. They haven't come to the realization that that's what they feel is more conservative than liberal. And that typically happens in those situations when you become a parent, when you buy a home, when you start making more money in life. It's just a natural progression. Unless you're all-out crazy AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, our least favorite congresswoman from the Bronx and Queens, who the more money she makes, the more radical she gets, the more Stalin-esque she gets, and she tries to channel Lenin, right? It's just crazy. But I digress a little bit here. So I thought this was very, very funny. And to me, this would be something that I think would be interesting. So again, maybe if you do want to chime in on this, I'd love to hear your thoughts on, dating outside of the political lines. Because for me, New York, New Jersey, that's pretty much all I have to choose from. There's not a whole lot of conservative women here. And over the years, the ones that I've met, many of them moved, right? They've moved to Virginia, they moved to D.C., they moved to Tennessee, they moved to red states or to the swamp to go work there. So it's slim pickings in that department, right? So I don't lead with politics, and typically they come around, right? Because they're not glued, right? Like I said, I've never dated a blue-haired, radical. But anybody that's from Mamdani, the madman, Mad Manny himself, that's somebody I think we all got to be a little careful about. Anyway, I want to talk about the economy, the environment. I've got a bunch of things tonight. We really have a broad array of things that we're going to talk about tonight. Plus, of course, your calls, your thoughts, your opinions on anything you want to talk about, in addition to your thoughts on what we're talking about. The phone number, here it is, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Rich Valdez keeping you company all night long. And, of course, we're live and national, and your calls are welcome, 833-4-VALDEZ. And I was telling you about this crazy story in New York about the girl being a crazy lib and the other guy not being, and they had to cancel their date because she was going for Zoran Mamdani, who himself is a climate crazy, and the climate crazies are all very upset. They have their panties in a bunch. Why? I'll tell you why. Because the EPA is revoking different things, right? They're the legal basis for tracking greenhouse gases and climate change overall. And there's a bunch of things going on, more things than I understand. And these are all Obama-era regulations. So I want to get the scoop on that from somebody who always knows what's going on. And that's Gabriella Hoffman. She's the director of Independent Women's Center for Energy and Conservation, and she always keeps her ear to the ground. Gabby Hoffman, welcome back.
Good to be back, Rich. Good to catch up with you. It's going to be fun to break this topic down.
Oh, thank you. I know, because this stuff is always usually Greek to me. And I just think if it's climate policy, let's just get rid of it overall. I'm that guy. I'm a little probably extreme here. But talk to me about this one and why this isn't necessary and why people are so up in arms about something that we shouldn't have to begin with.
This regulation, think of it like the Hydra of the climate agenda. And when you decapitate the Hydra, this is what is to be, a result. So when you do this, the reaction, the visceral reaction, the alarmism that is expected, I'm calling it climate panicins, kind of borrowing from the president, from the terrorist, but I think it definitely applies here because these alarmists are always panicking and they're always fear-mongering, but especially because this particular rule is what has been setting the entire net zero climate agenda for 16 plus years. This, it's impactful when they're screaming about it. But this doesn't mean we're not going to follow science anymore as a country, or we're going to be, despoiling everything and ruining everything. It just means that when we're deciding energy policy with respect to the EPA, Department of Energy, you're going to consider, is carbon actually a pollutant? And there's been debate about this in the conservative side of things and even in some corners of academia. But for so long, climate activists and self-appointed experts who largely incline to the left have hijacked this issue and said carbon is a pollutant. And that is what the endangerment finding basically said too. Even though the Clean Air Act, as it's currently written, does not label carbon dioxide a pollutant, it's just an EPA regulation. It's not actually something decided and determined by Congress, the official body, the only body that can regulate carbon as a greenhouse gas. But it still hasn't officially labeled it as a greenhouse gas. To put it simply for your listeners, so it doesn't have the authority to do here. And why this is really important. So the EPA can rescind this. And then if, let's say, Congress codifies it and says, in the future, you cannot label carbon dioxide, which is only 0.04% of the atmosphere, and it's also essential plant life. Trees need carbon to keep green. We need carbon dioxide. So it's been mislabeled a pollutant for a long, long time. And this also is piggybacked. I don't know if you also saw this, Rich, or if your viewers and listeners have been aware of this, but there's also an accompanying Department of Energy study put out by a very, very trusted group of people, the Climate Working Group as part of the Department of Energy, and they backed up and said that actually the way that carbon has been, mislabeled a pollutant has really hamstrung science, has really misled and harmed people, and to deem this as harmful to the public, to our health and to our well-being, we would already be deceased or very, very sick if carbon was truly a pollutant. It's a small fraction of the environment, or of the atmosphere, excuse me. So they're fearmongering about carbon dioxide. Yeah.
This is very interesting. And, I had a guest on here who was giving me some small number, some 0.04, 0.0 whatever, that's the percentage of CO2 that is typically in the air, and it's essential for plant life. And this is the basic stuff you learn when you pay attention a little bit in science class, that you need carbon for plants and you need plants for photosynthesis. And it's a whole process that I learned about. And I've always wondered, along with other conservatives, why they demonize carbon as much as they do. And then I figured out this, right? At least this was my theory, that this is exactly what they're doing. They say this is bad so that they can say, all right, don't use this, use that, and we'll make money on that. And it seems to be this was a power grab, really in the form of, or I should say, a money grab in the form of a power grab. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. This is the holy grail of climate policy, which underpinned every decision we saw from Biden and even before that in Obama era, the vehicle EV mandates. That is where this largely, it goes back a little bit further to a ruling called Massachusetts versus EPA. And I won't bore your listeners so much with the details, but essentially it said that, Congress has the ability, or the government has the ability to deem carbon a pollutant. So that is why Obama's EPA created the rule. But again, it doesn't have sound backing as a law because Congress never ratified this. It's just a regulation. So a regulation can therefore be repealed. And if, they're able to do this and decide, let's say Trump wants his allies in Congress to codify this permanently so that they can't label this a pollutant in the future, given the fact that the science is countering this very notion that it's a pollutant. That they might do that in Congress. That remains to be seen. But the visceral reaction from Al Gore, and even worse than Al Gore, was a congressman from Illinois who basically equated the president and his administration to potentially killing more people than Joseph Stalin, Mao Zedong, and Adolf Hitler combined.
I can't help but laugh. That's crazy.
My grandpa suffered under Stalin, survived one of his gulags. So this is crazy for them to be ahistorical and to not understand what's going on here. But this is what it's going to be inviting because they've just been unchallenged for so long. So when, again, the hydra of the climate agenda is struck and deposed, rhetorically speaking, in this manner, this is the visceral reaction. But is it going to lead to untold environmental destruction? No. Deregulation, I often say this, will not lead to decimation of the environment. A lot of these climate panicans have been wrong about coral reefs dying. We've seen more coral reefs discovered. Oil rigs, when they're decommissioned, become fabulous fish habitat structure, etc. Glaciers are actually not receding as much as we're told. We don't have these deadlines, climate deadlines of oblivion ever being reached. So we are going to be fine. And as we're productive as a society and an economy, more people will naturally care about the environment without these crazy dictates like this endangerment finding with overregulation and that sort. So the president is saying, rightfully so, that I want to have clean air, clean water, clean land, but I don't want to burden taxpayers. I don't want to limit choices, and I don't want this climate agenda strangling our potential to be energy dominant, to have this abundance of energy, because it basically was trying to usher in this endangerment finding, guide us to a forceful transition away from not only fossil fuels and even nuclear to only solar, wind, EVs, and batteries, which are not ready for prime time. They've been subsidized for decades, and there's been no mass adoption of this clean energy we were told is going to save us and save the planet. So the proof is in the pudding. This is just another course correction. And again, this Department of Energy study, I recommend your listeners to read it, absorb it, because it explains in scientific terms that this obsession with carbon emissions really undermines science in the grand scheme of things.
And sadly, Gabriella Hoffman, this is oftentimes what we see, that these conclusions that they come up with typically fly in the face of the facts, they fly in the face of science, and they're just fake, phony, and fraud. Gabby Hoffman, stick with me. We're going to come right back and continue to get some of your excellent analysis on these EPA policies and a couple of other climate crazy stories. So keep it locked right here, folks. We're coming right back with Gabby Hoffman and me, Rich Valdez.
Look at Rich Valdez. He's now a radio host, and he's a great radio host.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
When we invest in fossil fuel industry, fuel infrastructure, these people are happy. They call it an investment, but somehow investing in renewable energy, which is not harmful to the planet in the way fossil fuel energy is, they call that a cost. So there's an inconsistency even in how they're framing it. This is an investment. It's an investment in renewable energy, in a clean energy transition that's good for the economy, it's good for jobs, and it preserves the livability of our planet. And it's crazy at a time like this that they're trying to take us backwards.
That is Professor of Earth and Environmental Science at the University of Pennsylvania, Michael Mann. That's Mann with two N's. And he's slamming Trump and his crazy EPA move to repeal. I can't even speak here. To repeal this landmark finding. Let's get into this a little bit here because I think we just had Gabby Hoffman tell us why this was fantastic. And I think the left, they're not so happy. Gabby Hoffman, welcome back.
I'm happy to continue breaking this down. Yeah, and not surprisingly, Michael Mann borrowed a page from Representative Sean Casten, and he, again, all these people are equating the Trump administration to Joseph Stalin and the Soviet Union. But if we're going to be honest here, centrally planned policies, including their environmental dictates and posture, could be almost very similar to that. But I don't want to wage too far in terms of that, because the joke is, green is the new red in some regards. But I don't want to wager that Michael Mann broaches in that conversation. But they need to be really careful with assigning this label to the president. Is he imprisoning people in gulags to force them to consume oil and gas? No. Is he restricting choices? Is he confiscating the means of production? That is not happening with his energy abundance agenda. He's returning things to the market. He's getting government out of the way to unleash energy dominance, reliable energy, moving away from solar and wind, and seeing if they can truly work in the free market, because they've been subsidized for so many years. These technologies are not ready for prime time. They are very minimal in our overall energy mix. They don't work even with backup. And this rush to transition has been what's explaining the rise in electricity costs. And people forget that imported electricity, if your state like New Jersey or blue states that are importing all this electricity from red states, or states that are producing energy from coal, electricity from coal, natural gas, nuclear, that is even higher of a cost. So all these states that are going net zero don't have energy and electricity they're producing, they're importing, so therefore the costs are higher. So President Trump is taking the right steps, backed up with EPA Administrator Zeldin, Secretary Chris Wright, Secretary Bergeron. They understand what's going on. And eventually the prices we will see go down. It just takes a matter of time.
Let me follow up here, because you're talking about electricity, and air conditioning obviously is a big concern for everybody that uses electricity and loves air conditioning. And I know you've recently said that air conditioning is a necessity, not a luxury. But there's some ungodly number of people that have died in Europe from heat-related death. And this is a big deal, and people shouldn't overlook this, because I think I agree. We need air conditioning. Otherwise, people are going to drop dead.
It's absolutely true, and especially since we're in the cycle probably of warmer summers happening, not only in America, but even in Europe. This is just how the climate changes naturally. And the way to mitigate the worst excesses of this, heat wave is to cool your house down. Here in America, I think 90% of private households have AC units. Europe, it's only about 20-25% overall, but they are slowly adapting and retrofitting their houses and apartments with AC cooling units because they need it. And as you alluded to, it's 83,000 between 2000 and 2020 that died from heat-related deaths compared to 20,000 in North America. So something is amiss here. And again, EU is like 5 to 10, maybe 15 years ahead of us. Had we had Vice President Kamala Harris as president, she would have taken us on the direction that EU is with all these green policies, net zero, and even restrictions on certain AC units you can own. So culturally, it's not accepted. And then you also have these green policies that make certain units that we have here readily available in the United States impossible to own if it doesn't fit the energy efficiency standards that they deem and the like. So I applaud, and I really like the fact that Europe is starting to change their tune here. I have family and friends that live all across Europe, especially in the really based countries, as I like to say it, Central and Eastern Europe, who don't agree with what's happening in Brussels. They have started to adapt, air conditioning units, but it's Paris, it's France overall, it's the UK, it's a lot of these Western countries. Germany, there was a clip of Pitbull. He was in a venue in Germany, and he, used some expletives. He's like, "What the heck is going on?" I'm giving you the PG version, of course, but he was basically complaining about the venue where he was performing, that there was no air conditioning in a multi-thousand seat venue. So he was like, "You guys have to get your act together. I'm from Miami. Like, we at least have air conditioning." So we have someone like Pitbull even, putting Europe, especially Germans, in their place, something is amiss. So this should be very celebrated. Trump should have included in the EU deal that the European Union should buy some more AC units. We can export them in addition to LNG.
Right, that's funny. They're going to need them. Amigos, we're on with Gabriella Hoffman. She is the director of the Energy and Conservation Center at the Independent Women's Forum. And Gabby Hoffman, tell everyone how they can keep up to speed with the podcast that you do and your writing and everything else.
Sure. Well, for IWF work, iwf.org/CEC, that goes directly to our center, where you can see my work and that of my fellows and coworkers. Would love to draw everyone there. Find me on Twitter or X now at Gabby_Hoffman. I have Instagram, town hall column, District of Conservation podcast separate of my work with IW. Would love to engage with everyone who has questions, and we're trying to break these really complex or kind of confusing regulations like the endangerment finding down in very simple, easily readable pieces. So if we can be a guide for your listeners and everyone who wants to understand what's going on, we would love to be a resource.
Outstanding. Well, I want to thank you for helping us digest this stuff, because the climate crazy is always one of those things. Like I said, I just throw it all out. Baby in the bathwater. Just take it all. I'm not interested. Gabriella Hoffman, director of Independent Women's Center, the Center for Energy and Conservation. Make sure you give her a follow. I want to thank you for being here. Godspeed to you.
Godspeed to you. Let's do this again soon.
Will do. And make sure you stay cool in your air conditioning, because we have those here.
Yes, I am running it now as we speak.
All right, take care. And amigos, we come to you with your thoughts, questions, and comments straight ahead.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Rich Valdez. Before we get to your calls, of course, 833-4-VALDEZ is the number. I want to talk about a couple of things that are in the news today because, well, that's kind of what I do, right? And give you a little opinion, a little commentary here. But funny things occur in the news, and then sometimes serious things happen in the news. And one of the things that I think is interesting is how well President Trump is doing with tariffs. And again, I'm not grossly surprised. I've said a million times on this program, I support the tariffs, in particular on China, and that I was, cautiously optimistic. Let's see what happens, because you can drive up the cost of things. Now, I'm not saying that the cost of things is not driven up. It is, right? I paid $1,045 for 2 front shocks the other day to get my car fixed, right? The last time I bought shocks, they were $350. So no one's going to tell me that and the guy sat there and told me, and I was like, well, hold on a second. We're talking about tariffs. I'm like, this is a GM, General Motors, bro. My car is made in America. It has a little sticker right in the door. It says made in Texas, believe it or not. I didn't even know they made cars in Texas, but my car says it was made in Texas. So he says to me, yeah, but GM makes them in China. And they get the parts from overseas to assemble them. And that's the cost. And honestly, at $1,045, I was saving like $200 off of every other auto parts place because they were charging me like 12 something. So I realized that that's not all tariffs. That a lot of that is inflation, which is a multifaceted thing. But overall, what I'm saying is people are surviving, right? I'm going to come on the radio and I'm going to complain, but I did replace my front struts. I did that. And I think most people are going to do what they have to do. And if they can't, they have to grin and bear it. My friend that I talk about all the time, Ruben the Cuban, he came from Havana, Cuba to Key West, Florida on a jet ski. And he loves America and he can't stand Trump. And we always get into these political arguments. We always, avoid it, right? We avoid it until he says something, and usually he's looking for it, and then we get into it. He's one of the few people I take debate with, and we go at it. And he was the other day, he was telling me, he was like, oh, the problem is, he's like, everybody thought the economy was going to get so much better. Everything's going to get cheaper with Trump. I said, I don't think anything's going to get cheaper. I think the idea was to stop the bleeding, right? Not to keep costs rising, but to make sure that they don't keep going up, right? We're not going to make them lower. And some things did go lower, right? The issue with the sick chickens and the egg prices and all that was bound to go down. And, Secretary Rollins and the administration pushing for a positive resolution on all of those fronts. Great. You need the government pulling it in your direction for we the people. But we couldn't, it was never going to stay that high, right? We were not going to live in a world where there's 9 or 10 or 12 bucks a dozen of eggs. Now, that doesn't mean that all the other things, right? Gasoline might go down a little bit. But do we go back? I think is the expectation, and if it is, hey, I want to be part of that. I'm not there yet. Do we go back to a time where gas is $1? I mean, that'd be nice, but I don't know. Do we? I do believe we can get interest rates lowered. Of course, Jerome Powell does not believe that we can do that. He will do anything he can to make sure that doesn't happen. But I was saying all of that to say I think the expectation is the issue, right? And of course, one of two things has to happen. Either the cost of living has to come down or wages have to go up. And I think we're going to see a little bit of the cost of living coming down a tad, or at least, some of the things that are grossly inflated as inflation continues to cool. But we are going to see people make more money. And these these regulations, these legislative packages that are being introduced and signed into law, this stuff isn't for naught. It's not for nothing. These are big steps that are being taken to redesign how America leads financially. And I think people who turn a blind eye to crypto and don't have investments in crypto and just allow this modern day gold rush to happen and them not be a part of it, that's on them. Right? Same way back in the 2000s, people were saying, oh, because of the war machine. And my response back then was, if you know that we're gearing up to go to war, if you think Bush is a warmonger, Cheney is a warmonger, these people do anything for oil, why aren't you buying Chevron stock, Exxon stock, Halliburton, Northrop Grumman? Why wouldn't you invest in what you know is going to make you some money? And everybody would look at me sideways. Maybe that was an ignorant statement to make, but I think that's the right way to look at it, right? You just read the tea leaves. So I'm reading them again now. Crypto's going to go through the roof. Bitcoin has been incredibly stable. It's so much like Steve Moore pointed out a couple of nights ago. It's so much, as well as Mark Beckman, the ease of moving money around with cryptocurrency that is not cash is incredible, right? The only other non-cash money you can move around would be bricks of gold. Well, you try moving gold bars around, right? Not easy. Can't do it electronically. So unless it's like a gold-backed IRA or one of those types of things. So you're physically moving this stuff around. With crypto, it's not dollars, it's not gold, it's crypto. And you can do that. So anyway, I don't want to beat a dead horse here. But the point for me is we're going to see, I think, the economy continue to increase and solidify and become strengthened. Just today, we have GDP clocking in at 3% growth in the second quarter. Right? GDP, 3% for the second quarter, better than the 2.3 estimate, reversing a half a point decline in the prior period. These are all very good indicators for me, right? Because it tells me, you know what, it's probably time to make more investments in things you can't move, like real estate. And guess what? A lot of people are holding out on real estate because they're saying, oh, because the interest rates aren't low. Powell clearly isn't making a move today saying, yep, things are going good. We're going to stay right here. We're going to stay right here. We're not touching anything. What a pendejo he is. But guess what? Consumer spending is up 1.4% in the second quarter. Again, that's also better than the half a point in the prior period. So exports are declining because of tariffs. Imports fell 30%, and that reversed a nearly 38% surge in the first quarter. Okay, so it's tariffs are taking a toll on imports. But how did I put it yesterday? I look at tariffs as an optional import tax. In many cases, not all. In some of them, you got to bite the bullet. But in many of them, it pushes you to start figuring out what to buy. Now, I know I'm beating a dead horse here a little bit, but bear with me. Earlier this year, around my birthday time, I think it was May, I was redoing my kitchen. And I remember going to the appliance store, and I was back and forth between a big box store and a smaller, like, family chain of appliance stores, electronic stores. And ultimately, I went back to the small family-owned chain because I'd known that name since I was a kid. And the guy tells me, look, I'm not trying to be a salesman and pressure you, but it was right before the April 2nd tariffs or whatever. And he said, as soon as these tariffs go into effect, this stuff's going up in price. So, and the store had stuff with stickers on it saying no tariff on this because they knew where they were buying their stuff from. And they had some, I think it was General Electric products that were made in Florida. And they were trying to push all the General Electric stuff, if I'm saying it right. Maybe I'm wrong, but I believe it was the General Electric dishwashers and whatnot. And he was saying, look, this stuff here, made in the USA, no tariffs, you can buy this. But I was looking for a set from a different brand. Anyway, long story short, this is your optional import tax, right? Either you buy it pre-tariff, like I did, or if I had to make those purchases today, guess what? I'm going General Electric. Why? Because the guy told me I can save and not have to pay any additional fees because they were going to pass those on. Makes all the sense in the world to me, right? Anyway, I want to know what you guys think. Give me a call, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Rich Valdez, keeping you company all night long, like the Lionel Richie song. And I was a big Lionel Richie fan, not because, it was something. My mom was a big Lionel Richie fan. And, of course, and I still am. I like Lionel Richie. I just, don't hear him that much because I listen to news radio most of the time, or, hip-hop or reggaeton. But love me some good 80s and, mainly 80s, right? He was a big 80s guy, 70s guy too, I guess. But came to me in the 80s. Anyway. I'm rambling. Why? Because it feels like it's a Wednesday that feels like a Friday. Anyway, let me give you a little bit of what we got on the agenda, because the conversation this evening has been kind of all over the place. Everybody's talking about Sydney Sweeney, right? In the commercial for, what company is that again, Mr. Good? Mr. Good, talk to me. Not Aeropostale. American Eagle, there it is. Yeah, and the controversy over the jeans. So, anyway, we're going to have additional thoughts on that and a whole lot more. Anyway, if this is the end of the road for you, hasta mañana. But everybody else, keep it locked. I'm coming right back. More to come straight ahead with me, Rich Valdez. Take care. Good night. God bless you, America.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcoming you to the program this evening. We're live, we're national. It's 7 minutes past the top of the hour, and our phone number on this beautiful Wednesday evening hump day is 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. And a bunch of things I want to get into. Some things more entertaining than others. And one of those things I want to get into quickly is a cover story on the New York Post right now. There was an orange blob that was seen moving around Epstein's cell block. Some think that it may have been an inmate going to kill him. Federal investigators concluded that it was likely a corrections officer. It's way too far out of view for it to be seen clearly. It's very pixelated. So, no answers. But that's the report. I'll get into that a little bit later. I was trying to avoid some Epstein stuff, but it's like the gift that keeps on giving. Now, another gift that keeps on giving is the all-out crazy preferred candidate, AOC's preferred candidate, Zoran Madmani. Now, the madman himself, he's back from Uganda. Take two. He's back from Uganda, and he's got something to say. Now, he said a lot. I can't give it all to you, but I'm going to try and give you some of the tidbits of what he had to say. First of all, he tries to walk back what he said about defunding the police, saying that, no, I didn't really mean to defund the police. What I meant was, check this out, cut 7.
And he said effectively, if he doesn't like it, perhaps he should retract some of the words he has said previously, talking about police being racist or anti-LGBTQ, or that they should be defunded or dismantled. So this is a little bit of what Marcia asked, but as you've grown and reflected, and I feel, in fairness to you, you've been good about talking about growing and reflecting and always having conversations. Do you wish you hadn't said some of those things a few years back?
My statements in 2020 were ones made amidst a frustration that many New Yorkers held at the murder of George Floyd and the inability to deliver on what Eric Adams, of all people, described as...
Hold on a second, Zoran, the moron, Madmani.
And he said effectively...
Check this out. So, Zoran, the moron, Madmani, is now trying to walk this back. You can tell he's talking slowly because he's trying to really think this through and deliver the best words. The problem here is this is exactly what he wanted. He wanted to defund the police. How do we know? Because he said it. Now he's saying, well, this is what everybody felt, and all New Yorkers were feeling this during George Floyd. Listen, if this is the type of reactionary, hyper-emotional, panties in a twist type of reaction we're going to get from you, Mr. Madmani, I don't want any part of it. Go ahead.
Made amidst a frustration that many New Yorkers held at the murder of George Floyd and the inability to deliver on what Eric Adams, of all people, described as the right for all of us to be able to enjoy safety and justice, that we need not choose between the two.
Hold on a second, Zorro. Now, this one is interesting. We're going to have to get him a little black hat, little mask. He can be like Zorro from back in the days. This is very interesting. He's saying the right that all of us have to enjoy safety. So you mean to tell me that in order for people to enjoy safety, we need to get rid of the police? Right? Does anybody listen to the words this fool is saying? I mean, absolutely crazy. Listen, I don't like getting pulled over for no reason. Nobody does, right? You know that my brothers have served NYPD and in the feds, and I volunteered with the police department in Essex County, New Jersey, and I support the police. I do. I also don't like it when cops are crooked, and I think that's a fair statement on both sides, right? You can support the cops, and you don't support bad cops. I get it. I hope you do too. But I'm never going to say that I'm going to feel safer in a world with no cops. That's crazy. right? Because you know who says that? People that are armed to the teeth. If you can handle things on your own, then maybe you don't care if there's police, right? Those are the people. But if you live in a blue state, in a blue city, if you're in New York City, if you're in Baltimore, if you're in a place where if someone comes kicking in your door, waving the 4-4, and what are you going to do if you don't have one to fire back? You're calling the police. Somebody's bothering your little girl. If you can't handle it on your own, you're calling the police. All right, maybe you can handle it. What about your wife? What about your grandma? Right? Am I suggesting women are unable to handle conflict? No, I'm just saying if it's a 6-foot guy and it's a small woman, chances are she's not going to fare well. So what does she do? She calls the police. It's a very normal thing to call the police. For Mr. Mad Manny over here to suggest that we would feel, what do you say? We can enjoy the safety of our community by defunding the police. He's got to be kidding me. Go ahead.
Governor Cuomo is far more comfortable in the past, whether it be his own or whether it be in attacking me for tweets made before I was even an assembly member. What I have said time and time again is the campaign that I am leading, the campaign that I am asking New Yorkers to consider, is one that has been clear on its public safety approach. It's one that speaks about a desire to work with police officers.
That's a damn lie. Fake, phony, fraud. In addition to this guy being a pendejo, he's a liar on top of that. The reality is, look, he's trying to attack Cuomo. I get it. He's trying to be a politician. But at the end of the day, he's not talking about a world where we can work with police. He's talking about defunding the police. That's not working with the police. That's defunding the police. And I just got news for you. If you ever seen one of these videos where the cop pulls somebody over and the people are like, I'm not doing it. I want a supervisor. Why are you stopping me? Why are you doing it? And they have every rule in the book, and they're YouTube lawyers, and they end up getting punched in the face, dragged out of the car, windows broken, all this stuff. Why? Because they're breaking the law. That's why. And listen, sometimes cops get it wrong. I get that. But by and large, that's not how it works. It's not a negotiation when the cops roll up. Hey, listen, get out of the car. You're under arrest. No, I'm not. Let me tell you why. I've got my video camera, and you're not going to. Life doesn't really work that way. It never has worked that way, and I don't think it's going to work that way. Yet Zoran Mandami, he thinks, okay, we're going to negotiate with the police. No, that's not how it works. When he says work with the police, you know what he really means? Defund. Listen to this one. Cut 10.
When we talk about defund the NYPD, the entirety of the push is defund the NYPD and refund all of these different social services and things that actually create safety.
What? What is he even saying? Social services create safety for whom and for what? Now, listen, he can say, oh, well, you know, if they're living in a situation where there's food insecurity and some of these other big liberal lefty terms that have been invented in the last 8-9 years, fine. That's super. That is not what's happening, right? When you hear about Monday morning, every single Monday morning since I've been an adult, and you go to Google Chicago shooting, and you see the massive amount of bodies that they get in a Chicago weekend, it's unbelievable. That is not going to happen if you defund the police, right? NYPD, a little bit better in New York. We don't kill as many people as they do in Chicago, thank God. But saying that you're going to defund the NYPD and refund different social services. So what are you going to do? You're going to stop the crime that's going on in New York City? That woman that was burned on the subway by an illegal alien? This man that pulled up and shot the people in the lobby, then went up the elevator to the 33rd floor and shot more people, including a cop? This guy's going to be stopped because you are defunding the NYPD and refunding social service? He was going to wave his hand and say, hey, look, I'm facing a mental health crisis, guys. I'm thinking of grabbing a gun and going and shooting everyone. Mr. Mamdani, are you that thick? Are you that out of touch? Maybe he's jet lagged from his flight back from Uganda. I'll be right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
By the way, your ratings are up. Congratulations. I had somebody. It's always nice to check. I like to see, even if they're friends, I like to see how are they doing. Are people listening, right?
That's
right. But you're doing great.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Of course, we're going to get to your calls in a little bit. I see Carla's on the line. Jane is on the line. We got Preston on the line and more coming in. We've got our buddy Christian Matos on loan tonight. He's visiting us from the Mark Levin Show. Shout out to the Great One. The Great One will be on my show in a couple of, about a few days. I'll let you know as we get closer. And I want to talk to you about this controversy about the jeans, right? There's been a big controversy about the jeans. Some actress did a commercial for jeans. She's trying to be all kind of like sultry and whatnot and be funny and whatever and, do a commercial to sell some jeans. And she did. And boy, what a reaction. I've got a report from NBC News. Listen to this from Angela Yang.
Well, actor Sydney Sweeney and American Eagle are facing widespread backlash for the clothing company's latest ad campaign.
Genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color.
The play on words genes and genes as in genetics is sparking criticism from people accusing Sweeney and the brand of glorifying eugenics or white supremacy. So far, neither Sweeney nor American Eagle have addressed the controversy.
I don't think I would address it either. Now, listen, I'm very biased in this sense because, I'm a radio guy. So, typically if I'm talking to a guest, that you can't tell what they are because you can't see them, right? It's radio. We have to be extra descriptive. I'll say, so-and-so who is a black person or so-and-so who is a Hispanic person or so-and-so who's Jewish or whatever, just so that you if you can't figure it out on your own through the context that you get through the audio. But what's interesting about this is they went somewhere else, right? This is more than double entendre. They're saying this is the end of the world, that this is a Nazi-esque, I will say, type of commercial. I don't know if that's the case, but I want to bring in our guest to help us make sense of it. Salvador Litvak. He is the author of Let My People Laugh, greatest Jewish jokes of all time. He's an actor, a director, and a comedian. And he's the director of the film Guns and Moses. Salvador, welcome.
It's good to be with you, Rich.
Thank you. So what's your initial reaction to this big controversy? I didn't even know it was a controversy. I had never even seen the commercial, but I saw a lot of people on social media saying, oh, my goodness, this is an outrage. I can't believe they did that. Your thoughts?
I mean, let's put it this way. If American Eagle, did not know that these people were going to be triggered and brought it out, then kudos to them for not caring. I mean, it's ridiculous. Who would have ever even thought of such a thing? That the left is going to be triggered by a double entendre on genes, that the beautiful woman says, I have good genes. Whether she's black, whether she's Latina, whether she's white, if she's a beautiful woman.
Right. I took it like that. She's hot. So she's saying, look, I got good genes. I'm hot. I didn't get the racial aspect. She points it out. And I guess maybe it didn't make sense to me because people point things out descriptively all the time. But I think that's the big part of it where she says, I happen to be blonde. I happen to have blue eyes. Do you think that subtle statement is a racist dog whistle?
Of course not. But if American Eagle knew that it was going to trigger the left to this extent, then I give them even more credit. I mean, it's fantastic that they could be so predictable and ridiculous that just because the woman happens to be blonde and blue eyes. I mean, I hadn't heard of it either until it started to become a thing. And then I looked at one of these influencers who's hypercritical and saying this is a Nazi dog whistle, et cetera. And this woman says about Sydney Sweeney that, a while back, she posted a picture of herself with her family. And her family, they're all wearing cowboy hats. In fact, these are red hat people. And now Sydney can't help who her family is. But at least she doesn't have to go this far. I mean, it's like they're saying that if you have relatives who are Trump supporters, well, what can you do? They're your family. But in your regular life, you have to distance yourself from anything that could even be confused. I mean, they've lost their minds, Rich. They have lost their minds. They're looking to be offended. They're searching high and low to be offended. And this is just absurd.
You know, Salvador, one of the things I'm looking at here is Yahoo Finance. Listen to this. American Eagle stock price soars 18%. Another one, 10%. Now, it's gone down a little bit, too. I think it's down, too. But it seems like this worked well for American Eagle. All this controversy seemed to have helped them.
I think that's good for American Eagle, but I think even more, it's a good sign for our country. That I think that the ridiculous extremes that we've been going to, that pendulum is swinging back. People are getting normal again. You know, I think that the average American is a moderate American. Even if he votes Democrat, most of them are just like, we have the same values, right? We value freedom. We value security. We could argue, should you give up more freedom for security? Should you give up more security for freedom? But we're in the normal realm of conversation. And I think most Americans will find themselves there no matter how they vote. But these loudmouths at the extremes who are trying to hijack the conversation at all times, I think Americans are sick of it. And so when there's a commercial with a beautiful woman advertising what seems to be, you know, good jeans, quality jeans, people want to buy them. Good. America's back to normal, or at least heading toward normalcy.
Yeah, and I think there's also, you know, you being a comedian probably have a lot of experience with this, but there seems to have been a shift from, at least, you know, I'm a Gen Xer, I'm 47, and I can tell you, I grew up watching comedy specials by Eddie Murphy, and you know, he would oftentimes, when he was interviewed, he would cite Richard Pryor and others that came before him, and these guys were excellent comedians, but they didn't pull any punches, right? They made very, very provocative jokes. They used a lot of harsh language. It was funny. And it wasn't like today where people would be up in arms, panties in a twist type of response, clutching the pearls. And it seems like that sensitivity that people have, they've kind of lost their humor for anything. Everything is, oh, my gosh, I can't believe you said that. Rather than, oh, okay, you know, where I think we used to be a lot more live and let live back in the day.
I think you're right. And I think that's why Stephen Colbert got fired, because he wasn't funny. He had a one-trick pony, which was making fun of Trump. Eventually, even the people that are against Trump are tired of it because it's not funny. It's boring. They're spending a ridiculous amount of money on his huge staff in that show. And people are now looking for something fresh, something new, something different, something genuinely funny.
Right. Salvador, stick with me. I want to come back. I want to talk about your book a little bit. Again, folks, we're on with Salvador Litvak. He is the author of Let My People Laugh, Greatest Jewish Jokes of All Time. And we're coming right back. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
You know, I'm not a Republican, but I listen to you because you speak moderately and reasonably and softly and decently, and I really appreciate that.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Rich Valdez with you live. And our phone number, 833-482-5337. We're getting to your calls momentarily. Thanks for your patience. I want to wrap up our conversation with our guest. He's a comedian. His name is Salvador Litvak. He's the author of a book, Let My People Laugh, Greatest Jewish Jokes of All Time. I thought the title was very funny. Salvador, tell us a little bit about your book, why you decided to write it, and what can people expect when they get a copy?
I consider myself an inheritor of a vast and long tradition of humor of the Jewish people, stretching all the way back to biblical times. The oldest recorded joke is in the Bible, when the children of Israel came out of Egypt, and they had their backs to the sea. It hasn't parted yet. Pharaoh and the most powerful army in the world are coming after them to kill them. And one guy turns to Moses and he says, so there weren't enough graves in Egypt? You got to bring us out here to die in the desert? That same tone that a guy from Brooklyn would use.
Oh, that's funny.
Right I've done is collected the very best of the jokes. I wrote one of them. I don't reveal which one is the one that I wrote. But it's 163 terrific jokes, and I've adapted all of them to the modern ear, so they should be the funniest version. And it's a great book to have because I also have lists at the front. What's the best jokes for a first date, for a business lunch, for a golf outing, for a wedding toast? You know, when you need a joke, I've got the right joke for you. And I think that's why it's a bestseller on Amazon.
Outstanding. And if people want to get a copy, where do you send them?
Amazon. Just look up Let My People Laugh on Amazon. It's right there, easy to find, and they'll ship it right to you. And
now, what about a tour? What if people want to see you live?
I'm not a comedian. I'm a humorist. In fact, I say at the beginning of the book that I wasn't born funny. I married into it. My wife is funnier than I am. But the truth is that people have been asking me that, and I certainly could tie a bunch of these jokes together and do a live act. I just haven't done it yet. I think maybe it's coming. Maybe it's coming. It would be a fun thing to do. But where really people can see my work is in a movie theater right now. Our movie Guns N' Moses is in theaters, and I can't announce it yet, but there's an expansion coming, so it's really going to be around at a theater near you very soon, and they can see the trailer. And learn more about our movie at gunsandmosesmovie.com. It's an action thriller starring Mark Feuerstein, Neil McDonough, Christopher Lloyd, and Dermot Mulroney.
Oh, yeah, Dermot Mulroney. He's a famous guy, and so is Mark Feuerstein. He's terrific.
Yeah. And the legendary Christopher Lloyd and Neil McDonough. Everyone knows these days.
Absolutely.
And it's a great story. It's about a rabbi in a small town who becomes an unlikely gunfighter after his community is violently attacked. We wrote it and shot it before October 7th. We knew that Jews under attack who fight back would always be relevant, but we never imagined how the world has gone absolutely insane and making our movie just hyper-relevant. And so I really encourage people to watch the trailer and check out the movie at gunsandmosesmovie.com.
Great title, by the way. Another great title, Guns N' Moses. Folks, check it out. Support the cause. And Salvador, best of luck to you. Godspeed, my friend.
Thank you, my brother. It's really great to speak with you. Y que vaya con Dios.
Igualmente. Gracias, bro. And amigos, we're going to get to your calls and so much more straight ahead. Matter of fact, I could probably get to one of your calls now because this is a good time. Preston, Hampton, Virginia, WMAL. Go right ahead, Preston. You're on with Rich Valdez. Preston, did we scare you? Was it me or our humorist? All right. Well, let us continue. We're going to go to Carla. Carla is... Oh, do we have Preston? Talk to me. Somebody who can talk to me, talk to me. Preston, are you there? No, we're doing bad radio here, guys. This is very bad. Let's go to Carla. Let's make sure that people are actually there. Let's press the button for Carla. There we go. Carla, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm here.
Wonderful. Talk to me.
Thank you for taking my call, Rich. Appreciate you.
It's my pleasure. It took a lot of work, but we got it.
Yeah. So my question is, I'm trying to understand the story from Cincinnati, where that horrific beating on the white couple after, I think, a concert. Nobody's really, I can't follow the story because nobody's really saying anything about it. I wondered if you had anything to share.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we talked about it yesterday. And so did the Cincinnati police chief, right? The Cincinnati police chief came out saying that it was social media was to blame, that they were the ones that were the culprits here, not the people that were hitting this couple. And sadly, this is one of those things. This was a bunch of teenagers, I believe, because they didn't release their names. And I still don't know the catalyst of it, but I will rehash that when we come back from the break. And yeah, any violence, of course, is never appreciated. And more so when you see it that way. I mean, so brazen. You've got the husband there. He's like arguing with somebody. They get into a fight, and somebody comes and hits him from behind. Then someone else comes, and a woman comes, and until they're both on the ground. And it's like, wow, it wasn't a one-on-one. It was literally like a 10 or 15 on one, or a 10 or 15, maybe even 20 at one point on two. And then the wife gets knocked out, and then the compassion starts. You know, some people are checking to see if she's still breathing. I saw one woman get close to her chest, like almost to feel breath, that type of thing. It was very sad. And when I see stuff like that, I think to myself, you know, that could be one of our family members. That could be one of, on both sides, right? I mean, you never want to be the victim, and you also don't want to be the perpetrator, right? I look at that and I think, oh my God, these teenagers, I have a teenager. I wouldn't want my teenager to be involved in something like that, right? And it as a parent, at least for me, I don't always know what I don't know. I know what I think I know. So I see something like that, and I can't help but think, man, one more thing to mental note, remind my kid not to get involved in these types of altercations. And you would think it goes without saying, but there's a lot of people teaching our kids out there, and a lot more than we do lately, because of social media, school, friends, and so much other things. But Carla, thanks for your call. I appreciate it. Shout out to Alliance, Ohio, WNIR. I got to take a pause right here. We're coming right back. Your calls and more, 833-482-5337.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
After the guest leaves every night and we're doing open phones, kind of at the heartbeat of America, and you sit there in this radio studio and suddenly you hear voices. Mobile, Dallas, New York, Miami. And there's kind of a conglomeration of America all in one room.
Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Rich Valdez keeping you company. We're live and national, 833-4VALDEZ. I want to go to Todd. Todd's calling us from Fort Worth, Texas, WTAW. Go right ahead.
Hey, Rich. It's good to hear from you. Got a quick question. I work for Honda, and just for an example, the Honda Civic Hybrid gets 50 miles to the gallon here in the United States. But in Europe, the same car gets 80 miles to the gallon. And the difference is all the EPA regulations that the United States puts on the car industry. So is this deregulation going to help the automotive industry?
Oh, I would hope so, but I don't know the exact answer to that. It's a good question, and the next time I'm on one of the pros, I will find out. But ultimately, it's great that you point that out, because there's a number of things like that, and this is such a good concrete example of how this plays out in real time, in real life, where you can have the same car doing the same thing, but because of standards that we have to meet here, and we've seen a lot of this in California. I don't know if you recall a couple of years ago, Todd, there was, and it's still, I think it's still in effect, the chassis on a tractor trailer that was picking things up from the port in Los Angeles and different California ports had to meet a certain standard. And truckers were calling in left and right saying, oh my gosh, my truck doesn't meet that standard. There's no way I can do that. So it in effect became like a mafia saying, all right, well then these guys are the only guys that can carry stuff out of the port. And there were delays across the country. And this was all because of these standards saying that you had to have a truck that did X, Y, and Z in order to haul your cargo from the port. Meanwhile, these older trucks that functioned fine, and they functioned in the other states, they just weren't allowed to function in California. So this is not a unique problem to the Honda that you're pointing out, but a problem nonetheless. And this is exactly why we need to start slashing these standards. And I think, as our guest, Gabriella Hoffman, pointed out, she she called it the Hydra, right? That the head of all of these EPA requirements. And if this particular rollback isn't in effect, I think it's probably safe to say that they're working on getting to the next level or the next layer of the onion, if you will, to make sure that we can have the best situation possible. Because this overregulation has been a big deal for a long time, right? We have these things called CAFE standards, and they've also been a big deal over the years. And they do that for the sake of profitability. And it's just they all impinge, right? I was going to say they all impinge or impede the ability for the end user, the consumer, to get the best product. And ultimately, I think that's what we want, the best product, the safest product, the most efficient product. And that's not always what we're getting. So thank you for pointing that out. I appreciate it. Todd in Fort Worth, Texas, WTAW in the building. Let's see. We continue. Let's go to Saratoga, New York, WGDJ. Jane, go right ahead.
Hey, Rich. I want to defend our police officers. I have been, and I am living proof, you do not go on a call by yourself, because I just got injured so badly. For years, I would go to abuse calls, to the home.
As a mental health counselor.
Yes, mental health counselor, child abuse counselor. And cops would I always had a cop that went with me, and they did what's called a civil standby. They did not interrupt, unless we had an agreement. I put a bag on the porch. If I was having a problem, I would pretend to get something out of the bag, and the cop would be right there for me. And I really resent people who want to put cops down. And this idiot who's running, no, we don't want to defund police. They are here for us, and their lives are so dangerous most days. And
yeah. Jane, let me ask you, because you're in New York and you're up in that part of the world. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik just announced earlier that she is endorsing Curtis Sliwa for City of New York mayor. What do you think about that?
I like Curtis Sliwa. I do.
Yeah,
I
me too.
love Elise Stefanik. She is awesome, and I would listen to her before I'd listen to anyone. She's a pretty smart lady.
Yeah, smart lady, and you know what? They both support the police, and I think it's amazing that that's now a political consideration, right? I support the police. I don't support the police. I can remember a time when every politician supported the police. Unbelievable where we've come to, Jane.
There when some nutbag, like I was just thrown out of a front door onto a cement pad and have a dislocated knee, and I was an idiot because I went by myself. And I will never make that mistake again.
Thank you for the call, Jane. I appreciate it. Godspeed to you. I'm glad your knee is better, and I'm glad you're not doing that anymore, because it sounds like a tough gig. Jane in Albany area, Saratoga, which, by the way, makes the best water ever. Saratoga Springs is fantastic. If you haven't had Saratoga water, you don't know what you're missing. Straight out of Saratoga, New York. All right, amigos, I'm coming right back to more calls. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, to the phones we go. And let's see. We just had a Jewish jokester on the phone, and he hung up. What happened to you? This is a shanda. Anyway, let's go to Tony. Tony's calling us from Montreal, Canada. WVMT. Go right ahead.
How you doing, Rich?
Good, man. Thanks.
Rich, I didn't know it's illegal now to be a white person and be in a jeans ad. And, you know, in the whole country, there's quite a few white people in the United States that are, unfortunately, extremely beautiful people. But it seems like the left wants to shame a person who is donating all of her revenue from this ad to battered women, but they want to call her a Nazi because the byline on the ad was that she had perfect genes and she happened to be blue-eyed and blonde and extremely beautiful. So imagine if the reverse happened, if we got the most beautiful, ethnic woman from the United States, from any ethnicity, and we said, no, this type of person is not acceptable because, they're trying to say it's perfection in this race and therefore it's exclusive. But it seems like they can attack and shame white people that are doing great things for the benefit of women. And it's unbelievable that we've got to this point where the left is preoccupied with attacking women that are doing advertising to obviously support themselves and their families and their lifestyle. But at the same time, they're donating all of their funds to a worthy cause, but it's not good enough to Rich. Where are we going with this dichotomy in society where we're dividing each other on the basis of color? I think Martin Luther King would be turning over in his grave today if he heard this.
Man, Tony, I think you couldn't have said it any better. At least I couldn't have said it any better. The issue here is, I believe that is the source of power. It used to be other places where we sought political power. Now, the Marxist model is in full effect. We must always other someone, right? It doesn't matter whether you meant it wrong, you did it wrong, it was good or it was bad. We're going to make it bad. We're going to make sure that we can inflame some sort of emotion in you to make you feel like you've been slighted, so that you can wake up today and say, I'm having a great day. And nope, I'm not having a great day because some blonde girl did an ad for jeans and she said she had good jeans, and now my panties are in a twist. They're all in a bunch. They're bunched up. I'm mad because this is wrong. And this is the idea. The idea is to keep people upset. Now, that doesn't just happen by itself. This outrage is manufactured. You need influencers, social media influencers, old school race hustlers, the likes that we've seen over the years, Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, and now they have disciples that they've created that are the first ones on social media to do this and get people going, to create, not to mention, that's just the domestic problem we have. We also have people who do this internationally, right? The Iranians, the Russians, they love to do this stuff. They love to stoke the flame and stir the pot here in the United States because, sadly, people, they can have the calmest conversation about a lot of things. But when it comes to politics and when it comes to religion, we've been taught that it's taboo, and now that's it. All of a sudden, everything is falling apart. So I think this idea that the girl says she's blonde and she has blue eyes, she's got to be a Nazi, and that's it. This is the end of the world. I'll tell you this. Look, I've been the same person my whole life. A kid born in Brooklyn, New York, to two Puerto Rican parents that did everything they could to give me the best life that they knew how to give me. And I had some hardships, I had some good times, and I don't hate anybody for what I've been through. And I think more people need that type of approach where we just say, live and let live. Anyway, Tony, thanks for the call, brother. Shout out to everybody in Canada and Vermont. And amigos, keep it locked right here. We're coming back with more. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. America's favorite late night talk program featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to another hour of our program. We are live, we are national, and it's a blessing to be on this microphone with you. 7 minutes past the top of the hour, And if you want to join us on our late night national town hall conversation, give me a call, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. And I want to get into a lot of topics in this one segment right here. I'm going to try and lay out a few things and then get your reaction to those things and start this conversation. But there's a few things I want to discuss. One of those things is, of course, the New York City mayoral election. But before I do that, I want you to hear this clip regarding the Democrats and how unpopular they've become. Check this out.
A new poll shows Democrats have gotten even more unpopular. I don't know if that's possible, but anyway, Wall Street Journal now finds Democrats' favorability rating at its lowest point in 35 years. Just 1/3 of registered voters say they approve, nearly 2/3 disapprove. And that same poll also finds voters prefer Republicans to handle many key issues. Well, that's a good thing we have a Republican president then. The GOP leads by double digits on the economy, inflation, and immigration.
Well, inflation's doing better. The economy's doing better. Immigration is almost non-existent. Deportations are in full swing. Things are going good on those ends. Where things are going badly is in New York City, where you've got the Democrat, the sitting mayor, Eric Adams, where you've got two Eric Adams wannabes, Zoran Mamdani, who I call Mad Manny, and, of course, Andrew Cuomo, the failed governor of New York, who Curtis Lewa says was too busy slapping fannies and killing grannies to be effective as governor. And this, to me, is a laughing stock, right? It's almost like the setup for a joke when you talk about these people that are running. But yet Mamdani has appealed to a bunch of very communist sympathetic people that happen to be young, a lot of Gen Z voters, and there's a lot of Gen Z voters in New York City. So I think it's always important when you see party leadership actually getting involved and talking about how they're going to support a candidate. And not only in the MAGA movement is Elise Stefanik a big figure, or in New York politics as a congresswoman from New York, or even in U.S. government and Congress, where she's the Republican conference chair. But Elise Stefanik is rumored to be running for governor in the future of New York State. And she went on the Fox Business Channel today with Larry Kudlow, former, he probably still has a radio show, but on his TV show on Fox Business Channel. And here's what she said.
So, okay, Elise Stefanik, you going to run for governor?
Well, I'm focused on this year's local election. Because this is such a historic local election, we are supporting strong, pro-growth Republican candidates all across our state. And I'm going to pay very close attention to...
Are you lining up behind Curtis Lewa?
I am. I'm proud to support Curtis Lewa.
Pataki is too, by
yes,
the way. Me too, for what it's worth.
I strongly endorse Curtis Lewa, particularly in this multi-candidate race. He has an opportunity, a once-in-a-generation opportunity to win, so I'm proud to support him. But there are local races. We have an important county executive race in Nassau County on Long Island. We have races all across our state. That's what we're focused on, and that will lay the groundwork to save our state once and for all. Because I'll tell you, Kathy Hochul, she truly is the worst governor in America. I dubbed her that, and it is true, and it has resonated. She is plummeting in the polls. She is losing support. Her own lieutenant governor that she handpicked is primarying her. So even within her own party, she is losing support, let alone independents who have long ago left her behind, and Republicans certainly will turn out energized to support a strong Republican candidate.
Yeah, well, that's exactly why. Kathy Hochul's lieutenant governor is going to primary her because she sucks as governor. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. So it's a great thing that we have Republicans in the race and support from Washington MAGA Republicans like Elise Stefanik for Curtis Lewa. We all know where Curtis Lewa stands on the issue of the police. He says he's going to hire 7,000 new police officers. We know where he stands on law and order because he's got a nearly 5-decade record of serving the city with a safety patrol group that's worked hand in hand with the police, even hand in hand with then Mayor Rudy Giuliani when he was cleaning up the city of New York. But you know where the contrast really comes in? With Zoran Mamdani. Now, I played this before. I'm playing it again. This is Mamdani back in June of 2021. Talking about defunding the NYPD and refunding social services. Check this out.
When we talk about defund the NYPD, the entirety of the push is defund the NYPD and refund all of these different social services and things that actually create safety.
Now, he continues. He says that they don't want to defund the police. We just want them to respond to serious crimes. But you know what? You just heard him say that when we defund the NYPD, the entirety of the push is to defund the NYPD and refund all of these different social services and things that actually create safety. So again, it's social services in Mr. Mad Manny's mind that create safety, not the police. Now, I'm not saying the police create safety. I'm saying the police will help maintain safety if you have them, and that they're not neutered and they don't have this black cloud over their head of not having qualified immunity. So, again, I want you to very carefully listen to Ma'am Danny, who I call Mad Manny. I think I know how to say his name. I'm not mispronouncing it on purpose. It's a nickname. And he was on a Zoom call, June of 2021. I'm playing this again for the people in the back. Listen to this.
When we talk about defund the NYPD, the entirety of the push is defund the NYPD and refund all of these different social services and things that actually create safety.
Defund the NYPD and refund all of these different social services and things that create safety. This man should not even be allowed to walk around Gracie Mansion, let alone occupy it as mayor. This man has to be stopped at the ballot box. I mean, there's no other way. It has to be done. Now, listen, we've seen what a communist sympathizing mayor can do to the city of New York. We saw it in Bill de Blasio. Then we saw somebody a little bit less to the left than him come in, and not by much, but maintain all of the same policies. So guess what? If you had to look at the voting record of Bill de Blasio and the voting record of Eric Adams, if they were both, let's just say, legislators, city council people, I bet you they'd be identical. There is no daylight between Eric Adams, Cuomo, or Mamdani. On paper, the way they vote and what they support, they're all the same. Not a single one of them is pro-police. Not a single one of them is for the people. These guys are for themselves. They're for big government. And one of them likes communism a lot more than the rest. Anyway, we're going to get into a few other things that are happening around the world in big cities, because in New York City in particular, I always say we need a guardian angel in New York City, and that, in my opinion, is Curtis Sliwa, who's running to be mayor. He's the founder of the Guardian Angel Safety Patrol Group. But there's also a group called YFC, Youth For Christ. For 81 years, they've been engaging young people in Christ-centered relationships, and they've been out there, just bringing the faith to the people. And they do it to prevent incarceration, and they do it through a juvenile justice ministry that they've created. And we're going to learn about that and some of the positive outcomes of that, because we all know when we see people getting shot up in New York City by some madman, not Mad Manny, but a different madman, when we see women getting set on fire on the subway by these evildoers, all you can think oftentimes is you're mouthing the words, "Oh my God," right? Because what else can you think of? What else can you say in a moment like that? Well, we're going to talk about what they do and how they reach people straight ahead.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Thanks for what you do. You have so many people. You ask the questions that if the viewer had a microphone, they would ask that question, and you seem to always ask it right at the right time. So God bless you, my friend.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Rich Valdez keeping you company this evening. 833-4825-337, 833-4-VALDEZ. And we've been talking about defunding the police and a lot of things that are going on in the news. And I want you to hear this clip of Zoran Mamdani just a few years ago responding to the role of prisons in today's society. Check this out.
Are prisons obsolete?
Whew. Coming through with the quotes, coming through with the titles of the books. I have to read that, actually. I haven't read that as yet. But I think that, frankly, I mean, what purpose do they serve? Right? I think we have to ask ourselves that, which is that, you know, I think a lot of people who defend the carceral state, they defend the idea of it and the way it makes them feel.
That's Zoran Mamdani saying, what purpose do prisons serve? Now, I think the rest of us realize that is where people that can't be in the rest of society end up for punishment. But does that mean everybody has to go there, including young people? Some people, I think, can be given a new path, a new direction if they're given the right mentorship, the right approach, and you get to them early enough before they commit a heinous crime. So I want to talk about that specifically. Because, like I told you before, for more than 8 decades, Youth for Christ has engaged young people in their faith and helping them to avoid incarceration. And they're right in the thick of it in the juvenile justice system. So I want to bring in our guest. He's Executive Director of Youth for Christ in New York City. Daniel Sanabria, welcome.
Hey, how are you, brother? Thanks for
Doing
having
great.
me.
My pleasure. Thank you. So let's talk a little bit about what you guys are doing there, how you do what you do, and why you do it.
Yeah, man, we are a evangelistic outreach ministry. Youth for Christ been around for 80 years, and we're all about working with young people in every areas of life: school, neighborhoods, you know, the military, reaching kids everywhere where they're at, and preaching and sharing the message and walking with students one-on-one and being in their lives. One of our biggest ministries that we have across the country is juvenile justice ministry. And we are there that go into these facilities all over the country. Here in New York, we got 2 juvenile justice facilities, and we work directly with the students by befriending them and building relationships with them and walking with them in their journey. And that journey is tough. That journey is ups and downs. That journeys that we don't want to talk deep into conversation with. But the reality is these kids need hope. These are young kids from 13 to 18 years old. And so we have an opportunity to walk with them, sharing Christ with them, but also seeing them through when they leave the facility. We're not a ministry or a program that comes in, does their spiel, and walk out. We want to see a kid from point A to point Z in their lives, and that is walking with them in a Christ-sharing relationship.
Outstanding. Again, folks, we're on with Daniel Sanabria. He is the Executive Director of Youth for Christ in New York City. And talk to us about a particular story I know that you've discussed with us, or you've discussed in the media, about 2 brothers and how you helped change, or how the program has changed the trajectory of their lives.
Yeah, I mean, we have a program called Faith and Works, in which we teach kids about entrepreneurship and faith. So every year in the summer, we have like an 8-week program. We go in there, we talk about entrepreneurship, how to build a business, how to start something, how to create something with their story, with their understanding. So a lot of these kids will design their own brands, their own T-shirts. So one kid we've met, we talked about it, we share the whole program with, and I just knew from my heart that this kid was special. He's a leader. He'd done a couple of things in his life, but I know he had something special, so I stuck with him. So for just to think, we have 20 kids in the room, and 5 of these kids, like, they draw to you. And the young man Christian was one of them. He drew to us, and he asked questions, and I said, hey, man, when you come out, let's connect. And when he came out and got connected with us, he started understanding, man, I need more mentorship. I need more things in our lives. But then his younger brother was in prison at the same time. And we did the same exact program at his location where he was at. And I was like, yo, your brother is Christian? He's like, yeah. I said, hey, we're here to help both of you how can we work through this? And so, long story short, we got connected. We started a business, and we hired these young people to be part of our moving company business that we started, and we just build relationship with them. They've been out of prison for four years. They just finished their work. It's called a trading school. They just graduate trading school together, and now they're moving forward and to get their other certifications because we were there seeing them through. They did not want to go back, but they understood what their worth was. They understood they're created by God. They understood they're loved by Christ. They understood those points, those principles, and they gave their lives to the Lord. And Christian is working through it every day, texting me, calling me, asking deep questions. And so seeing these kids, two brothers that grew up in the hood, did some crazy stuff in their lives, to be out of prison for the last 3 years is a success. These kids, the average young person that gets arrested in the age of 16 will go back in jail. If they don't have a mentor, they'll go back in jail 8 months. They'll just go right back. It's part of their lives. Go right back. And so we want to see Christian and his brother move forward, but the only way to do that is be consistent in their lives and walking with them. They need people to walk with them. Like anyone here, you're on the phone, I'm on the phone. We have people in our lives that walked with us, that loved on us, that consistently be in their lives. Conversation is key, but also hearing them out in life allowed us to see God do some great things.
Amen to that. Christian Sanabria, folks, Executive Director of Youth for Christ. And it's an amazing story to see how you're able to help these young people. If people want to learn more about the ministry that you guys are doing in New York City and how you're making an impact, how do they follow you and how do they learn more?
Please go to our website, yfcnyc.org, yfcnyc.org. Join us. If you know people in New York or you're in New York, please join us, help us out as we are engaging in these students. We've been doing this for 9 years here in New York City. God has opened the doors. God's provided us access to these students. God's provided access to families. And we're looking for an army to support our students. So please join us.
Folks, check them out. yfcnyc.org. Daniel Sanabria, you are a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot. Godspeed to you, my brother. I appreciate it. And amigos, we're coming back to your calls and more. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
No hair, no care, and live on the air. It's Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Rich Valdez. And I want to get to some of your calls, but I also want to play a clip for you. I want to get your reaction to this. This is about 7 people that were arrested in underground trafficking. Listen to this.
Well, a total of 7 people are now in custody in connection to a child trafficking case involving an underground bunker in Bibb County. Some of the suspects are the children's own parents, and authorities say more victims may still be out there. ABC 3340's Gracie Johnson has more details, and we want to warn you, you may find it disturbing.
It's a case investigators say they'll never forget. Children drugged and tied up, taken underground into a bunker where strangers paid to abuse them.
Sometimes there would be multiple people that would come by and victimize these children on a nightly basis.
10 children so far have been identified, the youngest just 3 years old, the oldest 15. Most of them are under the age of 10, and investigators fear there are more victims and suspects still unaccounted for.
Some of them come in as they got old enough to be desirable to a pedophile, I guess, and then some of them their victimization start out when they were younger and then they reach the age of 10.
Investigators say the children were sexually abused in what was described as appointments paid for by offenders.
Sometimes they could make up to $1,000 a night.
And some of the people who were supposed to protect them were the ones handing them over.
Some of these people are acquaintances, some of them are family, and some of them are just people that they were able to schedule to come to the storm shelter.
Law enforcement believe this wasn't just a local crime. It was part of an organized human trafficking network, possibly linked to a violent gang. One suspect, Andres Trejo Valquez, is believed to have connections to a gang called Serenos, a group the sheriff says profits off child exploitation. His legal status in the U.S. is now under investigation.
Again, 7 people arrested in a child sex trafficking ring that was run out of a concrete bunker in Alabama in Bibb County. This is wild stuff. Underground bunker where they were doing this child prostitution. 7 people again charged with this. This is wild to me. The charges include rape, sexual torture, kidnapping, human trafficking, and the sheriff and other officials are alleging that the abuse took place in a cinder block building in Brent, Alabama, 50 miles southwest of Birmingham. And that's according to Sheriff Jody Wade. Just horrible. One of the quotes from him is, "This is the most horrible thing I've ever seen perpetrated against children." He then says, "I know God's forgiveness is boundless, but if there was a limit to it, I think we reached it." Well said, Sheriff. He said the operators of the sex abuse ring charged people to come to the bunker and abuse the children, adding that the operation may have made $1,000 a night. Wow. Think about that. $1,000 a night to abuse a bunch of kids. I'm at a loss for words. Anyway, the whole thing is, I mean, it just gets worse. Sometimes these kids were drugged. They used an animal shock collar to punish the children, according to complaints that were obtained by NBC News, WVTM in Birmingham. Some of the 10 alleged victims ranged in age from 3 years old to 15 years old. The children are all now in custody of the state, and thank God for that. Hopefully, they're safe now. But this is wild. And these kids didn't live in the bunker. They were just brought there for some sort of abuse. So there might also be a drug trafficking charge. There's an investigation underway as well. Just crazy. I saw this yesterday, and honestly, I just wasn't prepared to talk about it. This stuff drains me. I see this, and I think to myself, man, what are we doing as a society? Where are we going? What is going on in America? And I'm grateful for the work that Kash Patel is doing, for the work that Dan Bongino and Pam Bondi. These people they're doing the job. They're putting in the work. It just amazes me that this is as epidemic as a problem as it is. It really is sad. Anyway, let's go to your calls. Let's see. We got a whole bunch here. Let me see who was first in line. I think, there's a couple. We got a couple of Franks tonight. 2 different Franks. Let's go to Joseph calling us from New York City, New York. Joseph, go right ahead. You're on with Rich Valdez.
Manic depression, bye-bye pandemic, ranked voting scam, fraudulent Democrat primary, no socialist, no communist, we vote American, Curtis Lewa.
Wow.
Rich, I thank you for all the stuff that you do for us. I mean, God bless you, Rich. You give us outstanding information. And that story about trafficking is really disgusting. But me in New York, I'm voting for Curtis Lewa, New York City mayor, and Stefanik governor.
Love that. Absolutely. I think these are the types of changes we need, people that are going to do something about that. Now, are you a professional composer? Did you come up with that? Is that freestyle? I mean, it was pretty good.
this stuff I just got, and I'm giving it to you, Rich.
I love it. I love it. Well, all of America appreciates it. Joseph, now where are you at? You in Manhattan? What in the outer boroughs? Where are you at?
That's right, New York. My address is New York, New York. It's Manhattan.
Okay, good for you. So you're really in the thick of it.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, because I go, when I'm in the city, I have to go either to the east side, usually to the TV studio, the Newsmax TV studio that's on 49th and 3rd, or I go straight downtown World Trade Center to my studio, which is there at Vesey Street, right next to Brookfield Place. And, it's like two different places, right? Even though it's both in Manhattan. And I tell you, it's two different worlds, but the traffic is still horrendous despite the congestion pricing. It costs a fortune to move around. And when you're going through Midtown, it's just such a sad thing to see what happened to this once great New York City. I remember New York City being grimy and seeing these adult film theaters all over 42nd Street, 8th Avenue. Then Disney came and cleaned it up, and we got The Lion King, Madame Tussauds, all these beautiful Broadway theaters, and they just cleaned up New York City during the Giuliani years with the help of the guardian angels, Curtis Sliwa. And here we are, just some years removed, and voila, it's an S-hole again. And I'm judging from the accent, it sounds like you've been there for a while. You've seen this whole change, huh, Joseph?
Yes. I miss New York City Mayor Giuliani.
Yeah, me too. What do you think? What do you think is the catalyst? Why do you think people are supporting this guy, Mamdani? Is it a fad?
Well, we still don't know about the independents. And we still don't know about other people who would like to vote in this election. And I want to have those people come out and vote on their conscience.
Me too. Brother, from your lips to God's ears, I want to thank you for your call. Joseph, New York City, New York, listening online, streaming the show, richvaldez.com. Thank you, my brother. Call in anytime. Thanks for listening. And I appreciate you supporting the city the way you do. Amigos, we're going to continue with the rest of your calls and more. Evergreen, Montana, Cumberland, Maryland, Boise, Idaho, La Quinta, California, and many more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, let's go to the phones. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. Now, Ryan was on the phone last night, made a comment, didn't get to finish. So this is from last night. Ryan in Canton, Ohio, WNIR. Go for it.
Mr. Valdez, this called you from Canton, Ohio on your show. And yes, I am a server, and I'm grateful for the tax cuts that President Trump has provided for us. $24,000, no taxes due. I'm so grateful that he's willing to work with the working people so that we have a little more money.
A little more money goes a long, long way. So thank you, Ryan, for that message. I appreciate it. And I want to continue with the rest of your calls live and national, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. We continue. Let me see here. Let's go to Federico, La Quinta, California, calling us on KVTA. Go right ahead.
Hi, God bless you, my man.
God bless you, my brother.
I have a wonderful idea. You know, this guy from New York, you know?
Oh, Mamdani.
Yes, okay?
Mm-hmm.
If you take a look of him, he has the looks of Fidel Castro. All we have to do is show him with the hat, with the mustache. Everything is there already. He needs the hat and the uniform. You guys show him like that and start showing him like that in the news and everywhere. And I tell you what, that's going to be a disaster for him. Because
that's funny.
I mean, he's going. I remember when I was little,
Yeah.
from Costa Rica, and I remember how they took over Cuba, And you know something? Right now we have to create a system in United States. The nobody like this stupid man can come and run a country. This country
back in the 50s or whatever, they had this Senator McCarthy had this whole thing pushing this anti-communist act, and it was a thing once, but now nobody takes it that seriously, Federico. I don't know why.
It is so serious that you don't have no idea. We're talking about the future of the country. God went and opened the door for us to have Trump, and guess what? The evil can come and close the door anytime. In 4 years of heaven that we have, there is still a war that we're fighting against the evil, but we cannot be 100% sure. It has to be a system that there is no way that's going to let the Democrats to sell this country to China. They promised this country to China. That's why they're so desperate. I don't know if they got money or what kind of deal they got Obama with Joe Biden and all the Clinton and everything, everybody, because you're talking about a lot of money. Those people are desperate. They promised this to China. And
I agree with you. I think that there are a lot of people, Eric Swalwell and others, that have clearly been in this a little bit too deep, right? They've made some promises, they've written checks they can't cash, and they're doing everything they can. I think chief among them, Joe Biden. Joe Biden was incredibly friendly towards China, and I don't mean like he was trying to get along with them. I mean he literally looked the other way. When he was running for president, there was a candidate forum that he did, and the moderator asked him, "What are your thoughts on the human rights abuses that China's been committing?" And Biden said, "Look, that's not our country. Every country's different. They do things differently there. And here's the thing." And he just changed the topic, and that was how he talked about people being murdered, the concentration camps for Muslims that they have in China. The dismemberment. Right? I talked to one of these Muslim leaders. He's actually the prime minister in exile of Turkmenistan, which is where the Uyghur Muslims are in what was once Turkmenistan and now is China. And there was a part of what they did to these people, and they let the women grow their hair to sell human hair. That's one thing, the hair farming. But in this one, they took her organs. And they just left her like on the street. She eventually healed, but she nearly died from an infection. It was a brutal, brutal thing. And this is how they treat people there. So you're right. We can't deliver this country to China. There's no way. Nobody survives if we do. Federico, thank you for your call. I appreciate it. We continue. Let us go here to, let's go here to Frank, Cumberland, Maryland, WCBC. Go ahead, sir.
Do we really have to be afraid of a communist mayor in New York City named Zoran Mandami? The reason why is the executive is just a tool of the legislature. And in New York City, the legislature is the Board of Estimate or the City Council. Now, you're familiar with New York politics. Could you please enlighten us? How powerful are those two bodies? And what are the dynamics of the New York City politics underneath the mayor?
Yeah, very, very, very good question, Frank. And what I'll tell you is, the first thing I'll say is I don't think we need to fear Zoran Mamdani. I think that we need to stand up and reject him flatly, right? Just straight up rejecting him out of hand. It's a hard no, not for fear, but for one, not embracing his policies. Number one. Number two, you're right. Speaker Adrienne Adams. She is the Speaker of the City Council of New York, powerful body. and they're the ones calling the shots. You're right. The executive has some power, but it's kind of like a Trump versus Biden scenario, right? The executive prior to Trump, Biden said he had no power to stop what was happening at the border. I have to get Congress to pass a law. I have to get this. I have to get that. Trump gets elected. 5 minutes later, everything is on its way to being fixed. And it turns out you didn't need, like he said in his joint session of Congress address, you didn't need new legislation. You needed a new president. So I think it depends on who the executive is, for sure. That's going to make a difference. Now, is the New York City Council weak and feckless? No, they're not. When Eric Adams decided to grow a little bit of a spine and say, well, I'm a former cop and this illegal immigration thing is going to destroy our city, they looked at him sideways and he made enemies with his own friends in the Democrat Party. And they are powerful. They outnumber Republicans, something like 9-1. It's ridiculous how much influence they have. It's outsized, in my opinion. And they've been working at it for a long time. There's a lot of union money that goes into that. So, yeah, I think the city council races are as important. And that's why I bring Councilwoman Vicky Palladino on here. And that's why I brought Councilman Frank Morano on here. Because the handful of opposition council people that you have to get reelected in order to have some sort of apparatus, if you will, some sort of base for Curtis Sliwa in a Sliwa win. So my hope is that they all win and that we get to where we need to be. But, yeah, ultimately you're right. I would not be afraid of Zoran Mamdani, but I also won't say that he's like a toothless paper tiger. I think you combine a dangerous executive like Mamdani with a dangerous legislative body like the New York City Council, and it's going to make for breaking New York, which is going to sadly rot a lot of what's around it throughout the country. Frank, thanks for your call. Shout out to WCBC and, of course, the rest of your calls and more when we come back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, to the phones we go. We're going to go to Norma, Pendleton, Oregon, KGAL. Go right ahead.
I was just talking about cops, and you hear a lot about it. And ever since the George Floyd, which was, I knew the minute that aired on TV, it was political. Boston kept on playing it over and over and over, almost to incite, racism. Yeah. And it was not about bad cops. It was to get in this, defund the police movement.
Right, and this defund the police thing, it's ruining people. It's ruining cities, Norma. It's breaking things all across the country, and it's time that we put an end to it. So excellent point, Norma, in Pendleton, Oregon, KGAL. Thank you for that call. Gary, Colfax, California, KVTA. Sorry I couldn't get to you tonight. Frank in Evergreen, Paul in Boise. Hasta la próxima. Take care, good night, and God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdez.